Time for a bit of news, gossip and celebration at the end of this episode. And this first item in our news roundup contains all those elements. It concerns the most expensive bike in BMW's range. That is the M1000RR superbike that will set you back in its base form somewhere just north of €33,500 or very nearly 680,000 Rand. Expensive, but given what you might spend on some of the special limited edition models available from the likes of Ducati and Aprilia, actually something of a bargain. However, if you are fortunate enough to reside in that part of the planet's stratosphere where you can easily blow R1,000,000 or more on another motorcycling toy for your next track day or of course for your man cave, then you might just have missed out on the finest BMW superbike that money can buy, or could have bought. One very happy race fan has recently purchased a very special M1000RR to put in his collection, and it only set him back €127,000 or about 2.6 million Rand. This particular M1000RR is basically in full world superbike spec with a Suter swing arm, a larger 24-litre tank and an engine tuned at the factory itself for its race-winning performance. Run by FHO Racing out of the UK, sponsored by Richard Rawlins' Gas Monkey Garage and ridden by Peter Hickman at last year's Isle of Man TT races to victory in the senior TT. It was sold with a wide assortment of the island's squashed bugs still covering its fairings, all the provenance you could ever need of the bike's glorious history. If you missed out, don't worry too much, because this year's Isle of Man TT races are only a few weeks away, and there's a very good chance that another Peter Hickman senior TT winning bike will become available by the end of June. Right, while Don has been riding up a rock in the northwest, I will have been riding up and down a series of mountains in Sardinia on KTM's all-new 890 SMT. If all goes well, I'll be able to bring you my first impressions of the bike in next week's programme. But since KTM dropped a press release with some solid details at last about the bike just before my flight to the Italian island, I thought we'd have a quick first look over what it is they're doing with this reintroduction of a well-loved model. The original SMT of 2009 was only in production for about 5 years, and it didn't really sell in large quantities, but it did gain something of a cult following as it went about its unusual thing of combining the radical sportiness of a supermoto bike with a model that could also handle some distance work, hence the T for touring in its designation. Well, KTM has decided to bring it back, which is welcome news for someone like me who has been keen for the past 2 or 3 years to see the Austrian manufacturer enter the middleweight sport touring segment. Truth be told, I was kinda hoping for something more along the lines of a 890 GT, but I'll happily take the SMT since that's what they're offering. Once I knew it was going to be a SMT, I understood that its looks would probably be quite challenging. Supermotard bikes are often borderline ugly as road bikes, given that they take their inspiration from dirt bikes. And let's face it, KTM isn't exactly known for making beautiful bikes, but fair play, it does make distinctive ones. Now we've got another very distinctive one. The 890 SMT is properly in your face with its high front mudguard, and as expected it comes with KTM's quite divisive corporate face, its split insectoid headlight. I'm sure the looks will generate a Marmite type of response. Some will love it, a lot will hate it. Me, well, I'm surprising myself so far, because I think that from some angles at least it's actually pretty funky with that high tank. I just wish the mudguard and tail unit had been another colour other than white. It just reminds me of a million old dirt bikes wearing unpainted aftermarket replacement plastics. I do think though that it's going to be one of those bikes that is much more convincing in the metal than it is in the pictures. Okay, from the looks, let's move on to the spec sheet details that were also released just before I got on the plane. First, unavoidable impressions are that after, what, very nearly 15 years since that original SMT, it has returned, or as KTM would have it, hell yeah, it's back, but now with 10 less horsepower and weighing a couple of kilos more than it did previously. So much for the relentless forward march of technological and engineering progress. A quick glance suggests that, and I'm sure I'll be told at the press briefing, that there's been much retuning of the engine to suit its new role, but essentially it looks very much like this is the motor out of the 890 Adventure, and that means 105 horsepower and 100 Newton meters. Not particularly impressive numbers for a bike that KTM has promised will reinvigorate and I presume redefine what it describes as a currently boring crop of models in the middleweight sport touring class. They're basically the same numbers as you'd find with BMW's F900 XR that has been out for 3 years already, though it does weigh about 10 kilos less than that model. But it's still a good dozen horsepower down on the best-selling bike in the supposedly boring middleweight sport touring class, the Yamaha Tracer 9. More interestingly, it's about 10 horsepower down on the nearly €4,000 or 80,000 rand more affordable 890 Duke, and about 16 horsepower shy of what the €1,600 more affordable and frankly brilliant 890 Duke R can manage. Both of those naked middleweights also feature a significant 25 kilogram weight saving over this SMT. However, as well we all know, spec sheets only provide hints as to what the full story will be, and I'm really hugely looking forward to riding a model that I've been keenly anticipating in one form or another for some time now. I'm a big fan of these upright riding position, adventure-styled sport tourers generally, and I'm keen to see what the Austrians have done to mark their entry into this incredibly hotly contested class. I'm not convinced the existing contenders are, as they put it, exactly boring, and by extension, does that mean anyone who has bought and enjoyed one of those models up to this point, are they also boring? I'm not sure this kind of blanket accusation is particularly helpful if you're trying to lure potential customers away from other makes, but then I don't suppose the Orange brand has ever really been known for its subtlety, eh? It has, though, been known for producing, and often at the very first attempt, models that can legitimately fight for the right to be considered class leaders, whether that be through an amazing engine or a fantastic chassis, or indeed a combination of both. I can't wait to experience exactly what the strengths of this new SMT are going to be in the battle to banish middleweight sport touring boredom. Tune in next week and I'll share my first riding impressions with you. Okay, I'm about to dash off to the airport, but I can't resist adding this little bit of extra info about the SMT, because I was just looking at the KTM Instagram account and they have just put up this post that asks people to check out the bike with the high mudguard and then choose between it and images of the same model with a more traditional looking carbon fibre front mudguard. I'm presuming this is to gauge reaction because there has so far via social media been something of a noticeable backlash against the bike's looks. The general response amongst social media keyboard warriors seems to have been far from positive. Here are the images. What do you reckon? Full-on motard look with the high front mudguard, or the more restrained appearance of the lower, traditionally located carbon mudguard? I'm surprising myself here because I actually prefer the high mudguard. I'm not sure about its aerodynamic efficiency, but it gives the bike a definite attitude, sets it apart, and if you can't be beautiful, at least be noticeable. My wife, who had the very pretty CBR 600RR when I first met her, later had an equally fetching RSV Melee, and then what? Then a Z750 also. She prefers it with the high mudguard. She says it looks mean, hard, a bit of a bully rather than slightly apologetic. Mind you, this is a woman who also owned BMW's R1200 Cruiser in brown. So I'm not sure she should be trusted when it comes to a bike's aesthetic properties.
Yay.
Okay, maybe I went a bit farther. Right, off to the airport I go. SMT, I'm looking forward to thrashing you on some twisty Sardinian roads in a matter of hours now. See you lot next week when I'll be able to tell you what it's like to ride. Cheers for now. I'm off.